Alhamdulillah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya wal Mursaleen. Mawlana Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. Amma ba'd. Alhamdulillah. Um, we covered Surah Falaq, and we will continue today, inshaAllah, with Surah Falaq. We had some good discussions. So inshallah, we hope to carry on with Surah Al-Falaq, inshallah. Before we start, we'll do just a bit of recitation of the Surah Falaq, and inshallah, we'll go through just a bit of mashq, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق. So here, قل أعوذ برب الفلق. It's important that we make the Hamza clear, that we differentiate the Hamza from the Ain. So قل أعوذ rather than قل أعوذ. Or sometimes you hear قل أعوذ. It's common that people make the Hamza into Ain as well. So you have to make this clear. قل أعوذ برب الفلق. And the fa needs to be empty mouth. A lot of the times, because of the qaf at the end, a lot of times people pronounce the fa as full mouth as well. So they'll say قل أعوذ برب الفلق, or even the lam will be full mouth as well. فلق. It should be فلق. The lam should be empty mouth as well. So قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق. And here the ra is empty mouth as well. A lot of the times, because the sheen has a fatha on it, the ra comes out as full mouth. So people think that the ra should be full mouth. No, it's actually empty mouth, because the ra has the, even though it's mushaddad, and it's got a kasra, it should be empty mouth. So min sharri ma khalaq wa min sharri ghasiqin idha waqab. Wow here is empty mouth as well. Waqab. وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ. And here the tha, it should be very clear, tha rather than nafasati. A lot of times you hear nafasati. It should be nafasati. So you stick your tongue out slightly and pass air through. Nafasati. وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدَ. Inshallah, one more time. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. قل أعوذ بالفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد. صدق الله العظيم. Inshallah, I'll pass it over to Sheikh Shuaib, inshallah, to deliver the tafsir, inshallah. I'll continue with the tafsir. Jazakallah khair.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Okay, so alhamdulillah, we've touched upon the Surah Al-Falaq, and today I want to make the lesson a bit more specific, which some of you wanted more answers on this question. So inshallah we'll dive a bit more deep into that, but still try to keep it as simple as we can and as much as in the spirit of the tafsir as possible, and to keep it as not as philosophical, because I don't want to try and make it too complicated to everyone. So alhamdulillah, we know that Islam has been sent as a religion of peace, as a religion of submission to Allah, and everything that comes in this religion, it comes because of some maslaha for us, to benefit us in some way or another, and it is to prevent harm to us. Okay, so we know this, but for some people, this is there's still a problem. It etches in their mind that how is it that such a merciful Lord, as he calls himself, with two names in Surah Fatiha, in the first Surah, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, how does he call himself merciful, but then there's all this suffering in the world? And what kind of God creates evil? Okay, which is more of a sentimental problem than it is an intellectual one. Most of the people that leave Islam, that leave religion in general, most of the people, it is because of some emotional problem that they have with it. Okay, I want to make that clear, that a lot of people, they have an issue with this very problem, the problem of evil. Many people leave Islam because there's a lot of sentiment to it, like how can he do this? They start becoming guided by their own moral compass, you could say, and it just makes them question the very nature of the religion itself. So within this surah, Allah says, okay, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق, I seek refuge in the Lord of the dawn, the daybreak, قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق, okay, from the evil of what has been created, or from the evil of what he has created. Okay, so here is what we're trying to pinpoint, this very ayah. Okay, because the rest of it, min sharri ghasiqin idha waqab, the evil of the moon when it becomes intensely dark, and from the evil of the women that blow into knots, and from the evil of envious people when they become envious. Now, when it says min sharri ma khalaq, okay, it doesn't say, or it doesn't necessarily imply Allah created evil. Okay, it doesn't necessarily imply Allah created evil. It says min sharri ma khalaq, from the evil of what he has created. It's a bit complicated, but from the evil of what he has created, meaning that evil is just a byproduct of the creation itself. So, for example, when Allah creates something, he creates a person, he creates him not as perfect, because the only perfection that exists is Allah. There is no one that is perfect like Allah. Okay? Everything else has some form of imperfection, be it that you're not as strong enough, or you're not as tall enough, or you're not as fast enough, whatever. There's some form of imperfection. Now, does that mean Allah created imperfection? Okay? Does that make sense? Meaning, does it make sense to say that you created something absent? Okay, does it make sense to create something that is absent? And this is where it gets a bit philosophical. When Allah says that the evil of what he has created, does it mean that he created evil, or is it just a byproduct of what he created, and therefore it's not something specific that he created, it's just the nature of what he has created? Okay, so the intellect, so there's a sentimental problem to this problem of evil, and there's an intellectual problem. The intellectual problem is as follows: that either God is all powerful, or he is all good. He cannot be both. Why? Because if he is all powerful, he can create both good and evil. Okay? If he is all powerful, he can create good and he can create evil, because he is all powerful. He can create anything. Okay? And if he is all good, then only good can come from him. Meaning it, you can't extract something evil from something good. Okay? He cannot. Meaning it's like he cannot create evil because he's just good. There's no evil. He can only create good. Okay, so either he is all good or he is all powerful. Now, this is as as it stated. Since we can see evil in the world, therefore he cannot be all good. Okay, therefore he cannot be all good, and so he is either all powerful and therefore he is not completely good. Okay, or maybe we should reject the idea of one altogether. Okay, this is the intellectual problem. Okay, this is how you could say some people leave religion, because of this type of rationality. Okay, now one thing we could question is, well, what is even evil? Does it even exist? Does it even exist? Okay, that is a question. Does it even exist? Because you cannot just base the existence of God on seeing something that you think is evil out there in the world when you don't even know exactly what evil is. Okay, and the second thing is that in Islam there is no name from the 99 names of Allah that attribute him as all good. There's no actual name stating that. Yes, we have Al-Wadud and we have Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Al-Ghafur, and so on. Al-Afu, yeah, where he's all merciful and he's all forgiving and so on. But it doesn't imply all good. Okay, there's no actual name where he's called Al-Khair. Okay, there's no absolute name for him which exists in the Quran or the Sunnah that attributes all good to him. Okay, so in Islam we don't really have that problem. It's more of a Christian problem. Okay, and the issue is many people, when they're debating on the existence of God, they're debating it through Christian arguments. For example, the problem of evil, because in Christianity you have this idea where God is love. Okay, well, what about his justice? What about the idea that he is al-muntaqim, that he is the revenger? What about the idea that he is al-mumit, that he takes life away? Okay, he doesn't only have one attribute; he has 99 that we know of. Okay, so that's one thing. Good and evil, don't try to limit the existence of Allah on the idea of good and evil, because first of all, these are concepts, just as many other things in life are just concepts. So that's one thing. So we're asking what is evil, and there's two types of evil that as the philosophers go by. There's one which is natural evil, and the other which is moral evil. The natural evil is, for example, natural calamities, natural disasters such as earthquakes, tsunamis, storms, whatnot. And the second type of evil, which is the moral evil, is, for example, when someone kills a person, murders a person, or when they lie, and so on. Now, the natural evil, the thing is, you cannot say, for example, the storm brewing, yeah, that it's a good thing that the storms are brewing, or it's a bad thing. Meaning that what people do is they sometimes mix morality with science, with the physical world. And this is something that has even been mentioned by someone called David Hume, who was a Scottish philosopher. He said, look, this is an is and ought difference, meaning the sun is hot, fire is hot, ice is cold. Okay, it's not that the ice ought to be cold. You're asking a moral question here. Should the sun be hot? What kind of question is that? Is it good that the sun is hot? Is it bad, evil that the sun is hot? Okay, it doesn't make sense scientifically. Okay, some people try to mix this up, and it confuses many Muslims. That how does Allah allow these earthquakes? Okay, this is not questioning natural evil. Here it is about moral evil. Okay, so move natural evil to the side. You're questioning moral evil. Okay, Allah does something. So the question is, how do you base what is good and bad off of your own idea of what is good or bad? Okay, this is the trap. Okay, for example, is circumcision allowed? Okay, how can you judge whether it should be done or not? Like what compass will you use to direct yourself to that answer, to the conclusion? Okay, so that's one thing. Then the other side, where I said there's a sentimental way of looking at it, is that people, they become emotionally hurt. That how does such a merciful God allow so much suffering? And they become, burdened by this thought. For example, someone may have lost a loved one. Someone may have become afflicted with a disease. And then they direct it back to Allah. How it's sort of like saying, how could you do this to me? Okay, that is sort of like asking that, how could you do this to me? Now, I want you to ask yourselves, is that asking that as a rational person, or is that asking it as someone that's been emotionally hurt? Okay, and this is what attacks Muslims most. When they end up leaving Islam, this is what attacks them the most. It's this sort of, how could you do this to me? I don't understand it. Okay, so they're directing morality according to their own way of understanding it. And even in Islam, there's differences, there's debates on this idea of good and evil. What is it exactly? Okay, for example, some scholars, they say that good and evil don't even exist, or should I say, uh, beauty and ugliness does not exist. Okay, it's only your own idea of what you think is beautiful and what you think is ugly. For example, some people say that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So this is as far as I want to get philosophically. I don't want to get any philosophical than that. That was just basically defining the problem. Now, how do we get out of that problem? Okay, how do we get out of that problem? And I don't want you to look at it as some philosopher. I don't want you to look at it as some Christian apologetic or some theologian. Just look at it like this. The way Allah has created us, okay, He's created us in body and He's created us in ruh. وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي, as we've heard already in these tafsir sessions, that I have blown into them of my own ruh, of my own spirit. Okay, so this ruh, which you could say is the most real part of us, it is what we could understand as the fitrah. Okay, and remember that we have existed before the body, the creation of our own bodies. Before we entered this world, we already existed in a specific way, and this fitrah, it naturally inclines toward submitting to Allah. It naturally inclines towards loving Him, connecting to Him, not thinking bad of Him, or not thinking of a way that hurts us. Okay? This fitrah, everything that it thinks about Allah, it's always something that makes it love Allah more. Okay? It's always praising Allah. It's always never challenging Allah. Okay? But what happens? You grow up in this world. You're raised by your environment, not only your people, but the environment around you, what you see, the internet. And because of this, you create so many thoughts in your head that this is how I should live my life and this is how I should not live my life. Okay, so you're creating a moral compass. Now, I want to ask you, how far can we go in knowing what is good and bad for us as individuals. Yeah, don't forget about all of society. As individuals, how how much how much benefit does such a thing have for me? Okay, for me, not for anyone else, for me. Okay, and this is where Allah is saying, وَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ وَعَسَىٰ أَن تُحِبُّوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ شَرٌّ لَكُمْ. It is possible that you hate something which is in fact good for you, and it is possible that you like something which is in fact bad for you. Okay, so here Allah is showing that, look, don't think that everything that you think of as good and bad or pleasurable and displeasurable is actually that, because you will see many things in life and it is not as you think. Okay, it is like Imam Ghazali, he says that when I look at the moon, okay, I see it as the size of a dinar coin, which is around this size. Yeah, around this size. I see it as this size, but I know it is not that small. Okay, because there's mathematical equation, there's science, there's evidence that tells me that the moon is not that small. It is only the distance that makes it seem so. So I cannot trust all of my own perceptions to tell me what is true, what is false, what is right, what is wrong. Okay? Just like Allah says, you might think of something good, but it is in fact bad. You might think it is bad, but it is in fact good. Okay? That's right off the heart. That do not trust everything that you think is good and bad. It might not be so. Okay? You may think that just because something is pleasurable for my body, that this is what is good. Look, drinking feels pleasurable. Okay? Intercourse is pleasurable. Okay? Committing adultery and whatnot, it may feel pleasurable. Okay? Many things feel pleasurable in life. Even say for your own health. Yeah, imagine for your own health, do you allow 10 more people to die for your own health? Or do you sacrifice yourself to let 10 people survive? Okay, sometimes there's these big dilemmas that even doctors go through. They don't know which answer to take. And there's many moral problems that come out of this. So how much can you be directed by your own moral compass? That is the question. Okay, what do you understand is good? What do you think is bad? Okay, is the body really the most true part of yourself? Or is there something that whatever it sees as good and bad, or whatever it sees as pleasurable and displeasurable, this is the most true sense of the word morality, or this is the most true sense of the words good and bad. Okay? Now, in order to know what the fitrah is telling us, we need another type of compass, not the compass of the body, not the compass of the mind, or of our own reason, of our own rationality. We need something bigger than that. Because look, your mind can only rationalize so much. Okay? And many of the times, the way we rationalize is because of the emotions we feel. We justify our emotions. You will rationalize one way when you're hungry, and you will rationalize another way when your stomach is full. How much can you trust your own logic to give you an answer? Okay, we do need the mind. We do need it to make sense of things, but there needs to be a bigger, more greater guiding principle, greater guiding principles that help us to keep in line and keep in check with ourselves. Yeah, as long as we keep those foundations in place, whatever's in between, this is where we can speculate. Okay, but we need those greater guiding principles. So where do they come from? They have to come from something that understands our fitrah so well, in fact, that only it can give us the right answer. Okay, so where do we find this? And this is the whole idea of revelation. Allah did not send the Quran just as a book of laws for some kind of, just as you see in democracy or whatever. Okay, it's not just a book of laws or a book of politics. It's not a book of songs. It's not a book of poetry. However, it can feel poetic. However, it can feel quite appealing to the ears to hear. It can have laws within it. It can have policies within it, but it is not a book of that. What this book is a book of guidance. Guidance to what? It is a guidance to the fitrah. Just to shorten the answer. Okay, the Prophet ﷺ said that every son of Adam was born on the fitrah. It is only that his parents make him Christian. It is only that his parents make him Jew, that they make him Majus, Zoroastrian. However, he is naturally on the fitrah. And when the Prophet ﷺ went for Isra and Mi'raj, when he ascended to the seven heavens, he was given a choice between wine and milk. And what did he choose? He chose milk. Jibreel alayhi salam, when he saw this, he said, "Praise be to the one who kept him on the fitrah." Okay, and we see that in Islam even that drinking wine is evil, whereas drinking milk can be a good thing. Why? Because it is something about the fitrah that likes it. It's about keeping to the fitrah. All of Islam is about keeping to the fitrah. Everything that whatever fiqh ruling that you can see, it's all about keeping to the fitrah. It's all about making sure that we come back to the ruh. It's all about directing ourselves back to the ruh. Okay, this is what fiqh comes for. Yeah, this is how you can tell what is good and what is bad. Okay, and a lot of the time when people say, "How can your Lord allow such a thing?" Well, you're dealing with secondary issues here. How can you tell me that? How can you tell me that that I'm not that I should be allowed to drink, for example, when you haven't even accepted Allah in your heart, you haven't even accepted Islam in your heart, you haven't even accepted the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as your messenger. So how can we debate on other issues? These are secondary. These are secondary. We haven't even looked at the bigger issues here. Okay? And this is the trap that many Muslims fall into. They start going down a rabbit hole. They just start spiraling down, and it's endless. It's an endless road to suffering. Okay, so whatever we see as good and bad, we have to understand that Allah has some hikmah behind it. And the way I'm talking to you is I'm talking to Muslims, because if I'm talking to an atheist, I'll be talking in a very different way. Okay, I won't be telling them Allah has a reason behind it. Yeah, well, someone like that doesn't even accept Allah. Okay, so just take note that I'm speaking to you as Muslims, that Allah has some hikmah behind it. But the thing is, hikmah is infinite. Okay, if Allah is Al-Hakim, He is infinite in what He can know. Okay, and therefore whatever hikmah we have, it is only to a specific limit. We cannot go so far in understanding what absolute wisdom is. Yeah, but if we accept Allah as our Lord, our Creator, any of the names that you call Him by, if we accept Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as our messenger, therefore, whatever comes under that, it will be much more easier to accept. Okay, whatever they see as good and bad, this is how we can see as good and bad. Okay? I'm just trying to keep it as simple as possible. This is a rabbit hole that never ends, and believe me, most people, they debate on this issue, and it's very complicating. And for many people it's a very complex issue, and you can debate on it for ages. But this is as simple as I'm keeping it, and as in light of the tafsir as I'm trying to keep it. So does anyone have any questions or anything that they're confused by? Anyone?